Hi everybody, what is JazzHack and how does it work? That's what I'm going to explain today and show you. I'll play some at the end so you can hear how it works as well. JazzHack is a beginner's approach to improvising that I think is an easier way to get started. The standard approach, what most people do when they are going to learn how to improvise over jazz, is first step is learn all your arpeggios. You learn all the arpeggios and you learn how to use them over each chord and match them up. So you change arpeggios when the chord changes. The trick is that you don't want to start from the root each time or else it's going to sound really like an exercise. So learning to work your way through the arpeggios, and when the chord changes you just go to the next note in the next arpeggio, the closest note. That is kind of a first step for most people. Not an easy step, but a first step. The second step then is to learn the scales for each chord. Now, if you've learned the arpeggios, you've already learned the 4 of the 7 notes. So then you're just missing 3 notes that you kind of wedge in there, and that gives you the scales. So the second step would be, learning the scales and again using them over a tune. The third step would be, once you really internalize the arpeggios and scales, being able to use them so freely that you can really solo from your heart, I guess, if you want to say it in a chintzy way, but really play what you feel is maybe a better way to say it, using the notes that you've learned, but they're so natural that you don't really have to think about what you're doing, where you're going. You just can kind of hear and feel your way to the right notes and making a nice melody, a nice solo. So the point of JazzHack is to try and get to that third step straight away. Now, there's nothing wrong with learning arpeggios. Absolutely, you can go back and learn all your arpeggios. But I don't think that's the fastest way to get going. I think that's an intense step that takes quite a while. So JazzHack helps you temporarily skip those steps and get to know all the right notes at the right time. So we can use a tune. We'll use All of Me to show you how the system works, and I can give you a little example of how it sounds and if it's something that jives with your way of thinking. So basically what the system is I lay out what notes work in a given tune. So we base all your thinking around the major scale, and any chords that don't work with those notes, I will tell you what note needs to be changed. So, for example, I'll quickly run through All of Me, C major. Obviously, the C major scale works great over C major. The next chord, E7. So if you sharpen the 5th step of the C major scale, you get the notes that work with E7. And by sharpen the 5th step, I mean 1, 2, 3, 4. Instead of playing the 5th, you play the sharp 5th. And then 6, 7. So those notes work over the E7. The next chord is the A7. Over that chord, you sharpen the 1st step and flatten the 7th step of the C major scale. That gives you the notes that work great with A7. Then we have D minor 7, which is in the key, E7, which we've talked about, A minor 7, which is in the key, D7. If you sharpen the 4th step of the C major scale, you get the notes that work with the D7. And then we just have a D minor 7, G7, which are in the key. That is the first half of the tune. That's what we'll start with. So now that we have quickly gone through what notes that work, a good way to start a solo is to see if you hear a melody in your head after kind of going through and obviously playing the chords or the melody to start with. Hopefully there's something kind of knocking around in your head that you want to get out. So the great thing is, if you have a little melody that you play that you think is catchy and you want to repeat it, when you change chords to a chord out of the key and you have to change the notes, there's maybe only one note that needs to be changed. So changing a melody is very easy when you know what note needs to be changed. So I'll go through with a simple little melody that we can use for All of Me, and look at it through the first half of the tune. So something like this melody. It's just a very simple little melody that works. That's from the C major scale and works with the C major scale. The next chord, E7, sharp in the 5th, and the next chord is the A7, sharp in the 1st, flat in the 7th. I didn't use the flat 7 there, but that's okay. And then D minor 7. So continuing the same general melody up with the notes that work. The next chord is the E7 again. So, and then A minor 7, and then D7. That's the sharp 4. And that's the D minor 7, G7, something like that. So we'll try that melody with a backing track and see if we can get it to groove a little bit. Okay, so there was some small variations that I just kind of heard in my head, so I went with them. So that's obviously a very basic start. And I just paid in this one position so you could see what I was doing, and just in that one octave, very, very simply. So if you kind of take that idea and I say, okay, now I know the notes, I've kind of worked through and played something simple, maybe can I take that a little bit to the next step? Maybe you know how to do a blues solo or a solo in the major scale or minor scale, and you want to kind of develop a little bit more. I understand how it works. Now it's time to kind of cut loose a little bit. So I'm going to still keep it very simple, but a little bit freer. So I hope that gave you a good idea of what Jazz Hack is and how it sounds. I just played a very simple solo that has technique that I think a lot of you guys already have and want to put to good use into jazz. So hopefully Jazz Hack can help you. Head over to my website, jazz-hack.com. There I have 5 tunes, 5 standard jazz tunes, all explained for free with videos and scales and everything you'll need to get started. So head over there and give it a try. Thanks a lot.